All right, good. It was nice meeting you guys. Yeah, thanks for us. We'll see if we can squeeze this in before your next call. Hopefully, you don't have any more today, right? The less, the better. So this is me, Craig Hocknull, and this is my product, right? So I've known Casey for a long time now, ever since our kids were being born. Um, so the product I have is going to help you guys, right? So, I mean, you look around the space that you have to maybe fire a few balls around every now and then. If you're hitting wiffle balls, you're really not going to be improving as much as you can with the Saber, right? So this product is going to help you. This video that we're doing is going to help you, and I've got more videos online that I'll give you guys access to so that you can just watch them over and over again, and it's really going to help. So the problem with golf is that it's really like the Home Depot of sports, right? So if we said we're all going to go build a deck, mine might not get done for 5 years because I have no idea what I'm doing, right? So if I tackled the game of golf that way, I might never actually play the game. So the best thing you could do is probably hire somebody first, right? And if you already knew what you were doing, maybe you'd beat some of the other guys to completion of the deck sooner, but it wouldn't necessarily be that good. And if you actually had to hire someone to teach you how to build a deck, well, then now you could go and build each other's deck or help each other with your golf games, right? So the information that you get from a professional is so important. If you get that information to you properly, then you're going to be able to pass that along to your family members, to friends, and actually have a good educational experience with golf rather than some random bad experience, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some steps, and then I'm going to kind of teach you about how the product works, right? So the first thing I want you to do is look at your Saber. There's some words written on the side of it, right? So there's a formula that I came up with. It says athletic efficiency equals strength plus speed multiplied by timing plus technique, right? So power, the definition of power is strength times speed, right? So it's a powerful maneuver. And then timing and technique are super important as well. So if you combine all those, you're not only athletic, but you're efficient. And efficiency really just comes through wisdom, right? The smarter you are, the more efficient you're going to be. So let's run through some of the positions of the Saber and how it's going to help you. So the first thing I want you to do is look at the top side of that Saber. There's a blue stripe, and there's two sets of words. One says light snap, and the other one says heavy swish. Okay, so I want you to hold the end that says light snap in your hand with the blue stripe on top. Is everybody right-handed or would play golf right-handed? Okay, so what I have you do is just kind of turn and face me this way, so straight on. Yep, so you can just turn straight on this way. Yep, actually turn and face that way. All right, so when you take your left hand, first thing you want to do is take your left hand and put your thumb straight up on top. Right, now the reason why the Saber is square is because now you're holding the club or the Saber correctly. With a round grip, a lot of times people get their hand in all kinds of funky positions. When it's square, it's pretty simple. So I can look, go ahead and hold it out to the side like this. I can look and see everybody's already holding the Saber or the golf club properly, right? So that's a good start. So the blue stripe is on top, the thumb is up. Then what you're going to do is take your right hand and you're going to kind of cover that thumb, kind of like this. You're going to cover it, but don't do any overlapping, interlocking of fingers or any of that kind of stuff, right? So if I was to say, okay, go ahead and take an axe and chop down with it, maybe you wouldn't necessarily put your thumb here, but it doesn't make any sense to grab an axe and then hook your fingers or overlap them, right? Because biomechanically, we want the strength in the hands this way. We don't need to do that. So if you've ever been taught to interlock or overlap, that's a preference. Overlap is called the Varden grip because it was named after Harry Varden, right? So he was a really good player. He gripped it this way. People said, oh, I'm going to grip it like Harry Varden, right? So it's a preference. Tiger Woods interlocks. I interlock because it's what my dad taught me. But biomechanically, not necessary. Let's just go 10 fingers if you're just starting out, right? So once you've covered over the thumb, go ahead and kind of put it over one shoulder, bring it down, put it over the other shoulder, right? So as you do this, you can see as you're moving it, you're bending from the elbows and from the wrist, right? So one thing that you may have been taught as a golfer at some point is keep your left arm straight, right? False. We don't want to do that, right? So if you keep your left arm straight, that's going to cause problems, and I'll explain that here in a little bit. So we're going to kind of go through a little bit of like a military drill routine that I teach my kids when they first start out. So you're going to take the Saber just how I've showed you, take that palm of the right hand, wrap it over the thumb, take your pointer finger and stick it out, and kind of hook it a little bit further up the Saber right there. You'll notice that the flat side of the Saber creates a little nice little space for your knuckle, right? Relax your shoulders, put your feet together, right? So this is position one. This is called grip, right? So grip, and the next position is stance. So when you take a stance, it's just a casual stance. You don't have to like go into splits, right? All you have to do is go from here to here. So what you're trying to do is get your legs underneath you as if you were able to jump, right? If your feet are too wide, you're not going to jump very well from there. So the stance, the width, people say should be shoulder width. It should be jumping width, right? Something where you can jump from, right? So relax your shoulders. This is stance. Next position is bow, right? Now when you bow, a lot of times people are taught to keep their back flat, stick their butt out in golf. That's not accurate. You don't want to do that. It's a nice little kind of a bow where the upper back kind of rounds over and you get to right here, right? So bow. Next position is pop. So all you're going to do is just take your knees and pop them, right? You might have been taught to kind of take an athletic stance, stand like a linebacker, you know, whatever it is in golf before. You might have heard that. False again, right? So all you're trying to do is take your knees and pop them, and then you lower the Saber down to the ground, right? The next thing you do from here to get the club to the top of the backswing is you spin your hips. So don't lift the club yet. Rotate your hips. Turn as far as you can, right? So after you're in this position, rotate, right? So that means that right leg's probably going to stiffen. You get to here, right? This is what I call spin. So you can spin both ways, back and through, without really doing anything with your arms yet, right? So what we're trying to avoid is any kind of bumping or rocking from side to side. We actually want to spin, right? Golf pros, old school golf pros are traditionally found at the bars around country clubs. They would say sit and swivel like you're on a bar stool, right? So as you get set up, you're rotating your body this way. You're not bumping your hips. So this is spin. The next step is to set the club. So after you spin, you lift it. Okay? Now notice where I've lifted it to. It's kind of a 90-degree vertical, and you all heard that ball drop, right? So do that again. Bring the Saber down, spin, and set it. Okay? What we've done is we've set or loaded energy. We've loaded it up in our hands so that we can then snap it on the way through. Right? So we'll start over. You're here, spin, set. Once it's set, go ahead and snap it. You hear the click, right? So go ahead and go through that again. Spin, set, right? If you pause, then snap, right? Good. So now one thing you're going to notice is if your left arm was stiff, and go back to that stiff comment, if your left arm is stiff, the only way to kind of create energy is to kind of like drive your hips and to do this with your body, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to have your arms relaxed so that from here, you can snap it down, right? So let's go through those again. So feet together, Saber up in the air, that's grip. Relax your shoulders, stance, bow, pop your knees, drop. Once you're here, you spin your hips, spin your belt buckle, and lift it to set it. Make sure it's relaxed back here, right? You don't want a whole lot of tension. Once it's there, snap it down, right? So let me show you something interesting. Anybody struggle with a slice when you've been out playing golf, right? So what happens is the club doesn't, well, yeah, right, just aim further that way. So the club doesn't operate properly if you're doing things in the wrong order. So let's say I'm standing on this line, I'm hitting in that direction, and I do everything I showed you how to do, spin, set. Now watch what happens if I try to use my hips first. If I try to use my hips first, my body turns this way. Now the club has moved a foot over here, and now the path of the club is across to the left. So anytime that club moves across the line to the left, it causes the ball to have a huge slice spin. But the reason why it does that is because of the order in which you've done your arms. So if you go back like this, spin, set, and you snap on this side of your body, right here, then the club will come from the inside path, and you'll actually be able to create more of a draw shape than coming over the top. Make sense? Yeah. So when you're using the Saber, there's efficiency and athleticism. So golf truly is not a hand-eye coordination sport. Right? It's not like baseball or tennis or something because the ball's not moving. There's a Blind Golfers Association for a reason. You don't really need to see the ball to be able to play golf. Right? So what you need to be able to do is kind of feel how your body's moving to move properly. So what happens is a lot of times, guys will go out, they'll go to Top Golf or driving range to go and hit balls and learn the game for the first time. And what happens is they kind of take a cut at it more like baseball. So what I'm going to show you is the next thing to how to not only create power, but to make it go straight. Right? That's a big thing in golf, obviously. You don't want to be firing your ball into people's houses the whole time. So, right? So let's go through those steps again. So feet together, grip, right? Stance, little bow, pop of the knees, drop. Okay, now when you go back up here and you go to spin, just go to spin, take a look at where that blue stripe is. It should still be right on the top, right? When you look down, you shouldn't be looking at the graphite side. It should be right on top. Okay, now this side that is on the left side of that would represent the club face, if you had a club face on there, right? So you've gone to spin, you still see blue. Go to set. Look back at the Saber, you still see blue, right? We're going to kind of come down slow motion to the snap. You still see blue. Now here's how you hit it straight. Keep it blue, right? Keep it blue all the way to the other side, and then come up. So here's what happens a lot of times. Golfers are slicing the ball, so they're taught by somebody to roll their hands over to stop the ball from slicing. That's not correct either. All that does is now make your slice from the right turn into a hook that goes to the left, and now you're in trouble because you're hitting balls all over the place, right? So when you get yourself set here and you come down for power, this is the snap part. When you come through, this is the straight part. So if you go blue, snap, blue, straight, the exit should also be blue and then right back up again. Because if you've come through and you see black on one side or black on the other, that means you're rotating the shaft and you're trying to control the club. So we don't want to do that. So the best way to feel that is you'll see this a lot of times on tour. You'll see a golfer waggle the club. It's not them just staying loose, it's them also feeling the face, right? So we'll go through this step: grip, stance, bow, pop, drop. Okay, now to feel the waggle, you're just gonna move your wrist back and forth so that you can continue to see the blue stripe on top. If that blue stripe is rolling, like do this for me, go ahead and roll it, that's bad, right? Because you can imagine if that club face is coming in at 100 miles an hour and you're also in the process of rolling it one way or the other, that moment of time where it's straight is a millisecond in time, right? It's just one moment. Whereas if it stays straight the entire time by doing your wrist like this, you're going to be way more successful at actually hitting the ball straight. Okay? So let's go through that whole thing again, and then we'll wrap it up, right? So grip, thumb on top, blue stripe pointing back at your face, shoulders relaxed. You kind of got your feet together. You're in this position, right? Stance, just a little width, not a huge wide stance. A little bow, pop of the knees, lower the Saber down. I call that drop, right? When you're here, you're going to spin your hips. I'll do it lefty style. Spin this way and set it. All right, once it's here, you snap, watch me first, and then you can do it. You snap down, but you make sure that the blue comes through this way. Don't snap down and do any kind of rolling or twisting, right? So go ahead, snap it, and then check it on the front side. If it's still blue, if you're looking at blue, you've done a good job, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing about golf is, like I said, if you get really good advice from a professional and you're using a product that's fundamentally correct, it's going to help coach you, it's really hard to mess it up. But if you're just left to your own devices, like building that deck in the backyard, you could come up with something really bad just because you didn't really get the right information, right? So let's go through it one more time. Grip, stance, bow, pop, drop, spin, set, snap, and hold. And when you hold, just check the blue is there. If there's been any twisting or anything, you know, it's going to have a greater chance of slicing or hooking. That all making good sense? So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're videoing it, because it's in my head and it comes out naturally. It's not in your head yet. If you watch the video over and over again, it's going to really help with that. These particular Sabers, the ones that you guys have here in the front, I think they all say 2.0, do they? Did you say 2.0? Okay. So the 2.0 is kind of like your standard weight Saber. The one I gave Casey is, what does that say? SLD. So look on the blue side. Yeah, right. So SLD, that stands for super long drive, right? So I knew I was coming here to a fire department. You guys are strong guys. You need to work out with something that's heavier. So when you get a chance to swing that one, you'll feel that it's heavier. But what I'm going to do is show you now the opposite side. So now let's say you've built some technique, but you want to add some strength to that. So on here it says light snap. The other side is heavy swish, right? So flip it over so that the heavy swish is now closest to your hands, right? And then go ahead and waggle it back and forth. Now you're going to feel it's much heavier already, right? Go ahead and flip it back to light snap. So you can feel the weight change, right? Go back to heavy swish. Okay, so now the snap portion on the light snap is to help you with your timing, right? So watch me. If I go light side again, grip, stance, bow, pop, drop, spin. The snap location is before you get to the ball. Snap, hold, right? If you've trained that way and you've done the snap, your timing is better, the delivery of the club is better, it's coming from the inside. Now you don't necessarily need to hear the snap, so you just go to a one fluid motion with heavy swish. So when we flip it to heavy swish, you're not going to do the pausing and the snap. It looks like this. Grip, stance, bow, pop, drop. Now this is all one fluid motion, just like a golf swing. So it's back and through. There is no snap. So the little ball stays at this end of the Saber. So go ahead and go through that. You can go through it in your own timing. Grip, stance, bow, pop, drop, spin, snap, hold. So now you're just kind of working out. You're more swinging. You're not trying to wait for the timing of that ball. You don't need to snap it. The physics of how the Saber's created, you're not going to hear that snap anyway. So it's better to just have one fluid motion. When you're breaking the swing down into pieces, that's when you go to light snap again. You flip it over, right? So go through, on your own time, go through those steps again. When you set it, it's on the light snap side. Then you can work on that, right? And the location, the best location to hear that snap is right at just before impact, right? Because the idea is we want full transfer of energy into the ball. If we can transfer this little ball in the Saber to this end just prior to it colliding with the golf ball, that's the proper sequence of delivery. Okay, so it'd be like if I had an axe and I had to hit my bag, if I was to chop right through my bag, but I came down here and I kind of went like this and I hit my bag first and then the fullness of the energy was down here, I'm not going to chop that very well, right? But if I go to here, lift my axe up and deliver the energy just prior, boom, I've got all the weight of the axe plowing into my golf bag, right? So same thing, with a golf club and a golf ball, right? So you've got a few different ways to use a saber. It's not just going to sit somewhere in the station and you just grab it and swing it, because the repetition that you put into anything creates permanency, right? So the saying people used to say is practice makes perfect. No, right? Perfect practice makes perfect. Practice just makes permanent, right? So if you're practicing something incorrectly, you can get a really permanent bad thing if you're not practicing correctly. So that's what the Saber's for. That's what the video's for. That's what the other videos that I'm going to give you guys are for, is so that you have a proper way to actually go through it and practice it. And then, you know, the Champions Tour is probably waiting for you after you're done and retired from working in the fire department. You can go play on the tour, right? Because you've learned to do it right. So let's go through everything one more time. We're going to just go through all the steps. Just follow me, and then I'll see if you guys have any questions. So we're going to go light snap, right? We're going to go through the positions, light snap, relax shoulders, feet together, grip, stance, bow, pop, drop, spin, set, snap, hold, right? Then let's flip it over to heavy. We'll go through all the steps again, except we're not going to do any setting. We're just going to make it a fluid motion. So grip, stance, bow, pop, drop, and it's a full swing, setting, snapping, right? Now a great way to do this with the heavy end is to keep your feet together or feet on the ground and just go back and forth, right? One thing you're going to see a lot of just naturally, especially when you also watch golf, is everybody likes to come through and have that finish up on the toe. But what tends to happen is we tend to get on that toe too early as golfers, and that can actually cause mishits with our golf swing. So a good training habit, a good core exercise, a good arm and shoulder wrist exercise is to just swing both ways, right, with your feet on the ground. So watch me. This is my right-handed swing, right? Now watch. This is my left-handed swing. All I did is just flip my hands. So now I'm swinging. This is my right-handed follow-through. This is my left-handed follow-through. This is my right-handed backswing. So if you're going back and forth like this, you're not really doing anything that's going to hurt you with your golf swing. You're just creating more stability. You're creating a better way to turn and rotate. So you guys have any questions specifically to your own games or anything? Exactly, right? Yeah. Now, when I came out with the Saber, it was 2016. I started with it. 2017, I decided to take it to market, get my patent, that kind of stuff. 2017, I took it to the PGA show in Orlando, the massive golf show, and I won Best New Product for this. Right, so the reason for that by the judges was it was so versatile, right? I can also tell you this is now 2020, end of 2020. So I've had 17, 18, 19, 20. I've had basically 4 full years, and I've had 0 returns, right? So nobody's bought a Saber and then said, you know, that didn't work for me, I'm going to send it back. Or it broke, I got to send it back. So that's one thing I'm super proud of is not only did I come up with a unique product that I could get a patent on, but also that it was going to be sturdy and withstand test of time. So you guys have any specific questions about your golf game? Maybe some of the things I've said already answered some of that stuff. Yeah, good question, right? So ball position, if you look at the Saber, you'll see here where it says ball and then it says chip, pitch, iron, right? So let's see if I got a golf ball in here. This is not my current playing bag. I don't know if I got one. I got one, right? So good question, right? So here's another way that you can use a Saber. So let's say you're working on it, you're swinging your club. What you do is you take your Saber, put it on the ground, and you're going to aim. I'm going to aim at that electrical box straight away, right? Then I take my club, This is the intermediate Saber. So what I do is I take the ball and I position it right out in front of the Saber where it says ball. Right? Now when I put my left foot, I'm a right-handed golfer playing that way, I put my left foot in the grip section. If I was to chip a ball, so a short iron, I'm going to put my toe where it says chip. Right? If I'm going to hit a pitch, I'm going to take my right foot and move it to pitch. Then I'm going to move it to iron. Then I'm going to move it to wood. So to answer your question about ball position, it always stays in the same place. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So your right foot moves, and the reason is this. So you're about to smash a golf ball. You're about to hit it, right? I'm about to hit this bag. Doesn't matter what you're hitting. A sledgehammer into a wall, an axe into a stump, whatever it is. There's a location where the energy transfers best, and it's relative to planting of the lead leg, right, and the pivot, right? So if I had to smash my bag, I wouldn't put it up there and then hit it here, right, or a baseball. I would step to about right here. It's instinctive to a lot of people. You kind of step and plant that leg, and then bam, right in here. So it always coincides with the inside, basically the pocket or the belt loop of your left hip or your front hip. If I was doing this as a lefty, it would be this belt loop and this pocket. So if I was to hit this side of the bag, I wouldn't step past my bag and then try to hit it off my back leg. I would step to that location right off the hip, right here, and bam, right? So the same thing happens when you kick a soccer ball, kick a football. You plant the foot. If I'm going to kick that as a soccer ball, I'm coming in here, I'm going to instinctively plant kind of in this area so that my leg can come through, and then it pivots off of that one, right? Same thing with kicking, even throwing a punch, right? This is going to plant you so that then this can accelerate past, right? So it is instinctive, but it's not necessarily taught that way. A lot of times people say, well, you move the ball backwards for a chip, move it forwards for a medium club up, right? But really, if you're training a single ball position, you're training a single moment in time consistently. So if that never changes, your timing really never changes. I've got a couple of good golfers to back me up on this. Ben Hogan and Jack Nicklaus. They both basically prescribed, and they would be known as your top 2 golfers of all time. Tiger Woods basically does the same thing. When you have a specialty shot, like, yeah, I've got to punch it underneath a tree. Well, then, yeah, you play the ball back, you position it in such a way that when you hit, you're able to kind of drive it down there. But standard ball position, always off that belt loop, basically. Got any other questions? Yeah, I mean, I was watching your swing. You've played a little bit, maybe learned when you were younger. Swung a club a few times.
Yeah, I like the golf.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, and so, you know, the thing that everybody can kind of take from it is fundamentals, perfect practice works for everybody, right? It doesn't matter where your game is. You're going to be able to take something and use the Saber to fundamentally do it properly. The problem with the game, like I said from the beginning, is it's the Home Depot of sports. Everybody thinks, oh, I could just go play golf. I used to be pretty good at football or baseball or track or whatever it is, basketball. I think I can go play golf. Golf looks easy. So when they analyze all sports as adult learners, ice hockey is the #1 hardest sport for an adult to learn, right? You think about it. I mean, if you ever threw skates on in your 20s or 30s, it's just harder. Yeah, right? How can you go backwards? How does that even work, right? And then golf is #2, right? So as an adult learner, it's the second hardest sport. To achieve the category would be achieve some level of high performance, right? Now, you can go out and play and shank the ball all over the place, dribble it here and there, get in the cart, have a couple beers, and have some fun. Golf is awesome for just doing that. But if you want to achieve it at a higher level, it's a really challenging sport to do that. And the reason why it's so challenging is because you have a tiny little golf ball that's not even 2 inches in diameter, and then you've got to hit it hundreds of yards down a track or a trail, right, a hole, and then you've got to put it into a cup that's 4¼ inches, right? So I've got a couple other things. I've got on that table over there, I've got some chipping mats. The reason why I've got chipping mats is because when you're chipping a ball, you should be trying to land it on a spot. So take these home, take them to the golf course, use them here. You're trying to land your ball always on a spot, right? So don't chip with the flag necessarily as your goal. Chip with the landing spot as your goal. So even if you're doing it in the backyard or the the golf course, chip to spots. I've also got some putting discs, right? So this particular putting disc is one of my Saber discs. It's smaller than the 4¼ right? So if you're practicing with this at home, you're practicing to a smaller target.
Keep it on there?
Yeah, so it's hard to do. So if you putt to this disc and you don't hit it dead on, it'll hit the edge and it'll roll off to the edge, right? So you've got to get it perfectly up the front, and then you got to get it at perfect speed to get it to stop. Because if it comes in dead straight and it's coming in hot, it's just going to roll over. Yes. Yep. So I've got, and then I've also got these putting rulers, right? So what you're going to do is use the putting ruler as well. So putting is such a huge part of the game. What you're going to do is put your ball at that end, and then you're going to use your putter, and you're going to try to putt it and get it to stay on the ruler all the way to the cup. Okay? So when you're working on your game, I created all these things because I was trying to travel and play and compete. Sometimes I'd be stuck in a hotel room. Usually all you see is the glamorous, fun stuff that you see on the tour. But let's say it's pouring rain. Like I remember being in Louisiana at a tournament where I Monday qualified, so I didn't get a practice round on Monday. I snuck in a quick practice round on Tuesday. It poured with rain on Wednesday, and it rained part of my first round on Thursday. So I didn't really get the prep time I needed. So, but in my hotel room, I had my Saber, I had my ruler, I had my disc. So I was able to be more productive than my competitors because I had stuff I was able to use, right? So here, you guys are on call, you're waiting around, and at the drop of a hat, you're going to get called out. But if you spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, being productive with some of these tools, then what will happen is you'll actually be getting better because you're doing perfect practice, not just random practice, right? So, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You have better knowledge now, and if you're using the Saber and you're working with it, trade Sabers with Casey there, and you'll see that's the longer, heavier one. So if you waggle that heavy end, you'll see that's got some heft to it, right? So all the Sabers come in different sizes, right? So I've got little ones, like this one for kids, right? I've got ladies. Then there's intermediate, right? Right? Super long drive, right? So when you're working on this stuff, it works for your kids, works for your spouses, works for your girlfriends, whoever. So you can take what you're learning through this and the videos and then help other people play a little bit better too. That's better to transfer the information fundamentally correct than to pass down myths of keep the left arm straight. You know, Another one is keep your head still. Right? Well, when you're swinging a club, if your head was still, your swing would only make it to here. So your head actually has to tilt and move and rotate. If you don't rotate your head, you can't rotate your hips and shoulders. So, well, thanks for letting me come and share a little bit with you.
Saber.com?
Yep, Saber Golf, sabergolf.com. Yep. Yeah, so I'll get you all the training videos on it, and then this video that we're doing today.